So I want to go ahead and get started. As I said, we have a lot to cover. PM methodologies and frameworks. So I kind of wanted to put this up because there are more, but these are kind of the core ones that are out there. And they kind of go from left to right. It's really, left is more very theoretical, to right is really more kind of day by day, hour by hour sort of kind of approaches to things. So on the left, you've got lean as a theme and agile as a principle. Agile on its own is just a mindset. It has some values and principles behind it. It doesn't actually tell you how to deliver things. Waterfall actually works pretty darn well for smaller projects where we know the scope isn't going to change very much. That kind of just makes sense, right? We know we have to create a new internal website page for this communication pathway for these groups. We know that there's going to have to be files there. We know there's going to have to be links there. We know there has to be a web page, and it's pretty straightforward. There's not going to be a lot of change to that. We pretty much know from A to Z kind of what needs to get done step by step, get it up and running. There may be some technological challenges here or there, but all in all, it's going to be pretty straightforward. So as you can see here in these smaller projects, Waterfall works pretty well. Agile does as well. These are my epics, that have the start and end times, right? That we believe that it's going to take place. We start want to fill in the backlog. So I can create, and as I did for features, but if you just want to do user stories, that's fine. You can just create a new thing, right? You create it, and once you do that, there's an opportunity when you're in here to attach it to your epics, right? This will say something different like connect or something like that, and you can connect it there. Or you can do it when you're in the roadmap. You can actually say create a child issue and create it there. Agile kind of is an umbrella of those values and principles. Has these different frameworks and processes underneath them. Some of those ones on the left were used a little bit more in the past. Extreme programming was something that was really used to kind of bring forth some of the thought processes around the Agile Manifesto. But since that's come out, it's used as kind of a component within Agile, but doesn't exist really much as a framework on its own very often in many organizations I've worked with. Spotify, as most of you know, is kind of a music streaming service. And they're an interesting case because they took Agile and really did a lot of what we're talking about here and kind of ran with it. So they really believed in that page above here that it was the values and principles, and that's it. They didn't say we're going to do Scrum, we're going to do lean stuff. We're going to just look at these values and principles, and we're going to kind of see how that works within our organization. So they have these pods and squads and all these things. And they found something that really worked for them. And actually, interesting enough, it really was a homegrown model. The State of Agile did a survey kind of to ask people, and they could have multiple answers like, which ones did you do the most? Interestingly enough, stand up, not surprisingly, was the one that done the most. The one done the least was short iterations. I think a lot of organizations are still getting used to something like 2 weeks. It can be a hard thing to switch that mindset that we talked about. You can do, kind of any metric you want to put around someone's time, around someone's effort, around what's actually in delivery, what's been tested, what's past tested, what hasn't past tested. And there's value to those in different contexts, but I will say that for Scrum, there's a few that I've found that really are important, and I'll give you the reasons why. One of them is velocity. So you'll kind of see a velocity chart down here. There was an author, David Anderson, whose book I put on the link for the resources, who kind of first kind of really introduced some of these ideas of Kanban within software development. He was very smart in the fact that he kind of used this quote, is that Kanban is not a software development lifecycle methodology or really a project management approach. It's a kind of a change management approach, if you will, is what I would probably best describe it as at its purest sense. which is it really kind of looks at a process that's already there. And then you're kind of looking at, okay, how do we incrementally change it over time? And I put these four different ones up here because to show you that there's a large variety of boards, but there's a lot of common items too. So basically the concept is that you're working from left to right, right? So the things that are less done are on the left, and the things that are more done are on the right. On the top horizontal, you kind of have the workflow of the things that are going on. Uh, and then there's different ways you can do things on the left. Kanban is really great in the software delivery world of we're doing this thing the same way over and over and over again. When you start to get to like we want to create features and new things, Kanban's can be a little bit trickier, right? Because you kind of want to have a little more plan and predictability. And we'll talk about cycle time and lead time. That's really more meant for, hey, this predictable thing that we know that's gonna happen every time versus a feature which is something new and we don't quite know. That's why Scrum is kind of more of the new stuff sort of framework, where Kanban is sort of kind of the known stuff framework, if you will. So we're going to go from that to epics. So as I mentioned, kind of we're going to go top down. So epics, to repeat, the kind of containers for the significant initiatives, right? And they're maintaining the portfolio backlog. And here's like a basically template for how we would create kind of an epic statement that's going to would probably be put in some sort of system that's going to be, have features attached to it and then have stories attached to that. So if there are any further questions, I'll go ahead and stop the course for today, and we will catch up on Monday.